Today I have a mason jar. It's just the generic size. This is a wide mouth. And I'm starting by painting it with our Wise Owl primer in the gray color. When painting glass, I do try to prime it first if I can. And I really like the color of our gray primer. So it's kind of, I get 2-in-1. I'm just using a Gen foam brush to apply this. And it did require 2 coats. Once that dried, today I'm going to be using a mold by Redesign by Prima called Kingsbury Medallion. You can find this at chalkitupfancy.com. These molds are quite durable. They last forever. And I'm going to start by adding some cornstarch into the mold using just an art brush. And this is just going to ensure that my clay will come out easily. These molds can take heat up to 500 degrees. You can use them for baking. I also have created my molds by applying hot glue. You can use epoxy. But today I'm going to use paper clay. It has a little white horse on it. You can get it pretty much at any craft store or on Amazon, or we even provide a link if you need one for Amazon. And I'm just starting by just pressing the clay. You want to make sure it stays sealed in a Ziploc baggie as it dries out. Pressing my clay into the mold. And I like to go around the edges and pinch off the edges first, just to ensure that it's not going to shift on me. And then you can use a spackle knife to gently start to flatten out the back side. This is the back side of the mold, as it's going to be laying on a surface. So you don't want a big mound of clay on the back. You're just going to simply flip it over. And I try to do this gently and just start to release my mold on all angles, as you don't want it to tear. And if it does tear, you can always start over. And you're just going to gently roll it back until your mold releases. Guys, I don't look for perfection with these. Once you apply them and get paint on them, you don't see a lot of the imperfections. As you can see, it's thinned out in some of the grooves here. I'm not going to overthink it. My jar is now dry, and I'm using Elmer's wood glue. And you want to get this glue all over the back of your mold, and you want to concentrate on the edges and make sure that you have glue on all the edges. As these molds, as they dry, they do want to curl, and sometimes they crack, and we're going to address that once this dries on me here. And once you lay it down, you just want to go around and make sure that you're hitting all the areas, especially around the edges, and just making sure that it's laying and hitting the surface of this jar. Once dry, before I address any cracks, I just like to give it 1 coat of paint, because paint hides a lot of things. So I like to see what I'm dealing with first. So I did 1 coat of the primer on the mold, and you can use any paint you want. You don't have to use primer. And I am noticing a few cracks. This really isn't that bad, but for teaching purposes, I want to show you how I deal with cracks. Sometimes I do crack. And I'm just using some Elmer's wood putty or wood filler. And you just go around your mold with your finger and just fill in any cracks that you see. And if your mold did lift up from the jar, you can literally fill in that area with your wood glue. And then I'm going to allow that to dry. Once dry, I'm going to add another coat of the gray primer by Wise Owl. You would do whatever color you chose in the chalk synthesis paint. And just cover all that wood putty. Now I'm going to take a chip brush and just do a dusting of white all over my jar. I know this is hard for you to see, but it just gives it a really pretty highlight and just kind of grazes all that raised area. But I just like it all over my jar. Kind of gives it a vintage look, and it's just a dusting of the white. And again, this is just an inexpensive chip brush that I picked up at my Ace Hardware. Now I want to make sure I have a top coat. I'm going to use our salve with our 2-inch palm brush. You can find this at chalkitupfancy.com. And it's basically just a wipe on, wipe off. And this is just going to give me a nice top coat. And then I'm going to take some gilding wax. This is an Eternal. Put it on my finger and rub it all over my dried mold here, just to pull out all the details. And I'll even take a little bit and drag it around the ball wording and just rub it here and there. This just gives it a really nice touch. Now I'm going to wrap some jute around the mouth of the jar. Guys, you can decorate your jar however you wish, whatever fits your decor, with ribbon, jute. You can hang charms from them. They're really fun. And then I just want to tie this jute off. Now I found this greenery at our Christmas tree shop. And I just pulled it right out of the container, and it's just this little foam base that wouldn't fit in the jar. So I'm just kind of shaving some of that off so that I can just press it into my jar. Or you can always get a bouquet of these right at Walmart. They're pretty inexpensive. I just grabbed what I had in the house. And because I could see a little bit of the foam, I just glued some green moss into the mouth of the jar just to take your eye away from that white foam. And I ended up adding a little bow to the corner of mine. I really hope you enjoyed this video. For other tutorials, go check us out on YouTube. You can now watch us on chalkitupfancy.com. Any paint products, tissue paper, transfers, or molds, chalkitupfancy.com.